Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody is okay. So, as you could see, the infrastructure which I build up is still what we've been discussing the last time with Mr. Muhit. I have my firewall, and once again, this is something which I created for myself. I just would like to explore and to see the abilities to be able to install forwarders on it, and afterwards to be able to collect, with Splunk Enterprise to be able to collect logs and to be able to analyze them. So that's my personal reason to have it. You don't need to have this for sure. Now, since I have already the firewall, I created a Splunk Enterprise, and I have Linux server here, which is for short LXServe, and I have the primary domain controller, which has the Windows Server 2016, and it is a domain controller. It has a domain in it, and you see actually a picture of it here on my virtual box right away. The domain I'm using is housenet.local, but that's my personal case. You could do whatever you want, and that's a domain name server as well, as you could see. Now, the other two computers, which are the Linux computer, the Splunk Enterprise, on which I'm gonna install the Splunk Enterprise server for indexing all the logs, and the Linux server, which will be installing forwarder on it, including the active domain controller. All of them are in my LAN. As you see, I organized them in a group of LAN. Right. For now, I'm not gonna work with the DMZ. We already discussed. We could put a web server here. We could put Metasploitable. We might try to access from the one with the Kali and do some additional work. For now, we will not concentrate on that. If you would like to create your own infrastructure to be similar to what I'm doing, so to practice eventually with Linux, putting forwarder on it, and maybe installing also the enterprise, the enterprise Splunk Enterprise server, and doing the indexing on it. Well, you might use a simple Ubuntu either client or server. In my case, if you see, I'm using Ubuntu server for that. There is no graphical interface. No problem for this. And you don't need, as I said, to put them into. You don't need to put them into the network I do at the moment. Just to check you my LAN. If I go to settings and open my network. Here you will see it's part of the internal network, and I created this virtual switch called LAN. So you don't need to do this, you just use the NAT network. So you might change here to you might go and change here to NAT network, and you might use the NAT network instead. Not NAT, not the first one. If you're using the virtual box, use the NAT network. Now, if it's giving you an error when you choose the NAT network that there is no such, it's very easy to fix with the Oracle VirtualBox Manager 7 and on. You just go here to Tools and choose Network Manager, and in Network Manager the second tab is NAT Network, so you click Create and you create a new NAT network. I have already one, that's why I'm gonna remove it. I don't need this one. With the version before 7, actually it will appear here into, when you come here in the preferences, you will find it out here as a network, NAT networks. You will find it out, and you might use it here. It's they changed it in the interface recently, so it's not big deal, I guess. So that's all what I did. Once again, having a Splunk, it is it is for sure something which we work on the last preventive surveillance course, and this is in the category of the SIEM and SOAR softwares. Of course, there are other software like IBM Q Quadrant and other. So basically, we just decided we just decided to work with the alternatives. Actually, the IBM is the name is QRadar, is the name of it, and there are some other providers, including SolarWinds and so on and so forth. So the infrastructure when you're using Splunk is pretty basic. You have client infrastructure, so you need to install a client on wherever you're gonna collect, and the Splunk actually collects all the logs. So wherever you would like to collect the logs, you need to install a client, or they call it also a forwarder. You might have two type of forwarders. One of them is called universal, and that's what we will be working here. It's working with the raw data, and it doesn't index it at all, doesn't do any filtering on it. And you have also heavy forwarders, which indeed actually they do part of the job, and they create part of the filtering on it. It's for enterprise solutions. We are not going to work with that. And the other choice here, obviously, is once you forward it, you send this. When you use the universal forwarders, you send it then for an indexer, and this index will go through all of this content, and depending on what you will be looking for, it will index the content, and it will give you afterwards a very nice a picture, a kind of a visualization of what's going on. And you might go through some use cases, and basically you might protect your environment much more efficiently. And the SOAR, that's the SIEM part of the this is the SIEM part of the picture here when we're talking about Splunk. And the SIEM indeed means security information and event management. The SOAR part, or the security orchestration, automation and response, indeed will help us after further to automatize all of this, and basically have the security response, the response of any security issues, automatized and much easily mitigate, to help easily mitigate the the impact of an attack. So we are not gonna, for sure, we are not gonna go there. What we will try to do is to install the enterprise server, which will be, once again, not only the front end, which will show us what's going on and where it goes on, but also it will be the indexer, which will do indexing of all of these files. And I'm gonna use this this computer here, which is called already Splunk, as you see. I will install one forwarder on my primary domain controller, and I will try to get the logs related with the active domain there. And I'm going to install on this Linux server as well, and I'm going to try to see general logs, all of them, into the Splunk Enterprise. Now, there is another solution instead of the Splunk Enterprise, which is called Splunk Splunk Cloud Platform. And now it lacks, I tried it in the previous labs, and it lacks many features which actually the Splunk Enterprise has. And I feel it's much better to be used if you have a cloud instances, let's say Amazon, Azure, Cloud Google Platform, Alibaba, and so on and so forth, which to be monitored in the cloud. It's indeed a cloud solution from Splunk itself, and you have access for 2 weeks, and it allows you 5 gigabytes of data per day to be digested and forwarded afterwards, and kind of to show you representation of it. Once again, I'm not going to use it. I tried it. There are a lot of limitations, like if you would like to install a forwarder on the let's say a pfSense firewall, and try afterwards to monitor with the online solution. There are some files which supposed to be sent to the cloud, Splunk Cloud platform, and it's not. There is no easy way this to be done. As well as when you try to use to connect forwarder to it, there are a lot of things which supposed to be allowed. Receiving part of it actually is missing. You cannot do anything on the receiving part. There is no command line, and indeed there are a lot of limitations. And still, I would like to learn a little bit more about the installation of Splunk. I would like to be a little bit more easy in the beginning, so I'm going to use the Splunk Enterprise for this, and I will start indeed with it. So to start with that, you need to download Splunk. Now you see I'm using here the command line and copy and paste commands from browser. Here it is. I have my browser. It's on my physical machine. Copying and pasting into the browser from the browser there will be a little bit challenging if I don't do a little bit of let's say a little bit of additions to my infrastructure. So what I need to do is basically go and download a piece of software, and you will find it in the image, which is called Mobux The Mobux is aside of all of this, which is the working as networking agents, the remote access agent. It's supporting most of the remote protocols. It is also an SSH agent. And what I'm gonna do, I will download it from my real computer. So that's my physical computer here, and I have it already. Let me double check. Now my PDC, my primary domain controller, has an access to the downloads folder, as you see, to the downloads folder of my physical computer. So I'm gonna download. It's a portable program, the one which I just mentioned to you. I'm gonna put it in the downloads folder, and I will use it there. So let me. So once I put it in the downloads folder, I will be able, after this, from my virtual computer, the PDC, to be able to access it. So I just need to refresh, most probably, if I don't see it. So I could click here, and then I could go again to the downloads folder, and here is this, the Mobux term. I'm gonna copy it and I'll put it on my desktop here, my virtual computer. I also will create a right click, and I will create on the desktop. I will create a shortcut which will help me to work faster with. And then I'm just gonna click twice on it, and I will open it. Now, by the way, I will share this the installation video, how to install Windows Server 2016, and also how to promote it as a domain controller and to have the DNS server on it. And I will send you also the image of this, as I did with the other installation, an OVA image which you could use on your VirtualBox environment if you're using VirtualBox. I spoke with some of you, and I noticed that most probably there will be a way, actually, the OVA images with a little bit of tweaking to be able to use on VMware Player or Workstation as well. So what I'll do here when I open it, by the way, it's really powerful software, and as you see, it is a portable version. It's for educational edition, so it's a professional version, which actually has limitation to be used either at home or for educational purposes. So please acknowledge and respect this. So when you click on the sessions, you might create any type of sessions you want. Well, in my case, I will create SSH sessions to these two guys, so to be able to actually copy and paste everything what I want and access them. And since they're in the same network, there will be no problem. What I'm saying is, if I open here my command prompt and check my IP address of my domain controller, so let's check it. I'll do ipconfig /all. You'll see it has an address of 10.02.100, and my default gateway is 10.02.1, which is actually my the interface which is facing the LAN from my pfSense firewall. And if I click here, and I'll see firewall, and you will see indeed it's that's not true. What we need to do is we need to fix this, and we will fix it right away. We'll change the adapter settings here, click twice, go to properties, and we'll navigate to IP version 4. I switched off intentionally IP version 6. That's the default one, and it might create you some problems if you leave it on. And I'm gonna say, well, I cannot obtain address automatically, since that's a domain controller. It needs to have a static IP address, so I'm gonna use 192.168.100. That's outside of the spec of my DHCP, so it's a good thing to use. It will be a static address. Then I'm gonna put the address of my firewall also here, which you see on the left side. It's 192.168.1.1. And because it's a domain controller, it will point to, the DNS will point to itself, which is 127.0.0.1. I'll say OK on all of this which follows, and eventually, just to be sure, it will start. Yeah, it's starting, as you see, but as to be absolutely sure all the networking functions will be on and properly. So what I'll do additionally will be just to manually disable just for a moment and enable back my network interface, and that's from the graphical interface will be nice. So I'm gonna open this again, and initially actually I will check again my network settings here. So here they are, and it shows 192.168.100. If I would like to ping if I want to ping my default gateway, I could definitely test this too. Here it is, and it's pingable. And of course, I might try to see how I'm accessing internet, and I could do NS lookup of google.com, and it will show me that that the resolution goes through the domain controller itself, and it is resolvable. So everything here seems okay. Now let's test here and see what are the IP addresses of these two machines, the Linux machines. One which will be the Linux server, which we will put a Linux forwarder on it, Linux Splunk forwarder. So we could do here APAS, and we could say EMP0S3 just to see the information about the relevant interface. Then, as you see, I have 192.168.1.202. I'll try to ping, I'll do dig on the Google here, .com, to see information about if everything goes fine, if it's properly set it up. While I'm waiting, I could do on that site as well. So I could do IPA. Yeah, you see, Dick shows that there are some problems on this one, so let me test it a little bit more. I could do ping 8.8.8.8, and you see there is something wrong with the networking here, which I'm gonna need to. So I fixed the issue, guys, and the Linux computer has an IP address of 192.168.203. Here it is. I have access to it. And the other one, which is the server, has 204. And here it is. And I tested them there already. I'm able to ping in between them as well. Now, let's start with the installation with the Enterprise Splunk. We will install it on this computer, this one. Well, before we start, of course, we need to have access to. I'm gonna open Mobox and I'm gonna go to the session. I will create a new session, which will be SSH. The remote host will be 192.168.1.203. I'll use the username of user, that's what I'm using. And actually in the bookmark settings, I will say this one will be my LX server or Linux server. This one will be this one. Yeah, it's asking for a password, so I could always put the password, which we know already which it is. Here it is. I'll save it. Say do not show. Well, it's okay to show it. I'll say yes, and the password will be saved, and here it is. Now I'm gonna go out. I'll say Control D on that, or exit, and then as you see it says press return to exit the tab if you would like to restart the session or to save the terminal. There are shortcuts which are small letters even though they are written with capitals. So I'll click enter, and I'm gonna actually duplicate this one. Right click and I'll say duplicate session. It's not needed to do it, but I just would like to show it to you that it's possible to be done. If you need to copy something which has a lot of a lot of settings there, so just to change a couple of them, then right click and you say edit session, and the first thing what I'm gonna edit will be here to 204, and then in the bookmarks that would be my Splunk Enterprise, right? So I'm gonna call here Splunk, okay, and I'm gonna say okay, and I'm gonna now try click twice on it. It will ask me a password. I'll put the same password and I will save it. So the next time I'm gonna start, it won't ask me anymore for the password. By the way, I changed the names. You see this one is called Splunk, and if I go here to the sessions and I open the Linux server as well, you see now it won't prompt me anymore for a password. You see this one is called LXSurf as well, and I went to the etc hosts file there and I applied it the same names to the loopback address. Now notice also on the left side by default it's showing SCP, which is the secure copy. So basically if I would like to copy something from this computer to to specific folder or subfolder here, it's very easy. As well as right click, I could change the permissions very easily as well, which is kind of giving me a very easy way to work with these two guys. And as a matter of fact, I will minimize them. I don't need them to be visible anymore. I'll minimize the firewall as well. So I don't need to see too many things there. They might actually make a little bit more easy to work, and I could make this a little bit maybe bigger. Kind of, I'm gonna do it something like that. Okay. And of course I'm gonna try to make this one also bigger a little bit. I'll minimize this too. Anything more I don't need I'll actually get rid of. And I'm almost done, so let me just do this a little bit bigger. Once again, please respect the education license. Don't use it for other things than in school or at home if you're working on your labs, the same way I'm doing it here. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna say download Splunk Enterprise, and it will open, of course, here the here it is, a Splunk Enterprise free trial. That's what we are interested in. I will send after this in the YouTube. I'll send into the content the link. What you need to do is to put a business email. So your student email from the college is working perfectly. That's I tested it, and you're gonna see I'm gonna use it after this. I already created it, so I'm not gonna create again. Create a password. It says what to be. It's easy. Put your first name, your last name, job title. You might say IT, students, whatever you want. Put a phone number, company. You might put here if you want a different phone number than your own, but I use mine, let's say, and here either your zip or postal code or the one of the school. You might find it in Google very easily, and afterwards I agree. And once you click enter, actually it will prompt you to log in, something which actually I already did. So let me do login here. Let me log in. And I'm gonna put my username from the school, as I said. Don't forget there is QC and that's CA. It's not directly, and there is this STU, which I guess means student. Put your password when you created it. I already create mine, and here it is. And I will be logging to Splunk. I could save it. Well, I'm not gonna save it because I'm gonna share with you this, and you don't need actually to have it there. So from here, you see, you might download. It says Splunk Enterprise. That's where you are. As a matter of fact, if you go a little bit below, you might see these products, free trials and downloads. Right click on that and open link. And the next thing what we'll go and look for, it will open the free downloads. You see that's for cloud platform if you would like to subscribe. It's opening, as well as, let me just move this away. It says 5 GB of data per 14 days, as you see. And for enterprise, if I go and check it, you'll see it's 500 MB per day. And after 60 days, you can convert to a perpetual free license, which means, again, you might proceed using it, but you cannot be used more than 500 MB of ingested data. That's the difference, but it's good. With the cloud, obviously, after 14 days, you won't be able to use it. And as I said already, there are a lot of problems there as well, which at the moment we want to avoid. Splunk Enterprise, we already did it, the free trial. And the next one, which we'll be focusing on, actually, will be the Universal Forwarder, right? So that would be the one. I'm going to use my same account. You see, I'm still logged in as the account. And I'm going to click on this one, free download, and it will open very similar. Download windows like with the other ones, but obviously this one will be for the Universal Forwarders. And here we're gonna download one 64-bit for Windows, and afterwards one for our other Linux environment. So here on Splunk Enterprise, since I'm gonna install it on this server, the Splunk, or if I need to be more precise, this is the one which I am at the moment. This Splunk computer, right? Which I have access to it. Well, it's a Linux on Ubuntu, so I'm gonna click on Linux here, right? And then I'm gonna navigate a little bit down so to see it better. See, it says 64-bit, and you have different ways to do it with RPM. That's Red Hat. Deb is for Debian, Ubuntu based, and TGZ. It is the tar GZ, which means you have archiving and compression here applied. Now, you could say download now on that. And actually, the next one, we do the same thing for the Universal Forwarder for Linux. We do exactly the same. You don't need to download it, though. It will start downloading now. You could always say here, cancel. What's important is here, this one. It's much easier to use. You see, it says download via command line. So you click on this one, and it will open this nice looking windows. And what you're gonna do, you just click on this one. I actually move it a lot, so let me move it a little bit up. Here it is. So once you choose all of this, this one will provide you with access. Here it is. So right click, copy, and then you need to install it. Be sure that you're gonna install it once again on your Enterprise edition. So I'm gonna say Control L. I'll say paste. Here it is. And I'm gonna say enter. Now it's not necessarily to be always done as connected as user, but it's as a super user, and you could use sudo if you want. If you want to connect as a super user all the time from your Linux computer, you could do sudo su. Now there are two ways actually. If I do sudo su only like that, once I log in as super user or root user, indeed I will still be in the same folder where I am. If I do pwd to see my present working directory, that's my user which I have, right? I have only one user. If I do 3 command and I say home, I'm gonna see the folder. You see I have only one user, and as a matter of fact, you see that's what I downloaded, right? So that's the home folder of my only user which I have. The other one is the root, and as you know, the root is having in Linux a separate folder which is directly under the root. Under the root folder, of the Linux. So what I could do now here, it's this *gz. I could actually extract it. Now, what I want to do to extract it, as a matter of fact, what I want to do for that is I want to go. So as I mentioned, I will log in as a super user, so to avoid using sudo all the time. And when I do sudo su, I will be logged in as a super user after putting the password, of course. And if I do pwd, you will see I will stay in the same folder where I was actually. I'm still in the home user. If I do Control D or exit and go back to the user, I could always check it. Who am I, right? So I'm a user. If I check again pwd, I'm staying in the same folder. Now, if I do the same command as before, sudo su, but this time empty space and dash I put, see, now it seems a little bit different. If I do pwd now, see, I will be under the home folder of the root user. That's the home folder of the root user. So you see a small dash, but it does a major, it does a major difference. And because most of the time we will do things as a super user over the folder of our existing user, in that case I'm gonna log in, as a matter of fact, without I'm gonna log in without the dash. So I'm gonna say, well, I'm already logged in actually. I'm gonna say here Control D, and I'm gonna log in without the dash, so to be able to access fast the home user. As a matter of fact, you see it says that's my username, that's the name of host name of my computer, and that's where I am at the moment, right? So that's the home of my user folder. So after doing all of this, once again, if we do ls-l, we'll see that we just downloaded this file, and this is the only file we have there. Well, what we could do, as a matter of fact, we need this file in another folder, so I'm going to say cd opt, wherever most of the time the optional software stays. And if I do again pwd, just to be sure, I'm in the opt. So what I'll do now, I'll say tar. I'm going to use the command for unarchiving what I see. So it's a gz file, so I'm going to use z first. Then I'm going to say x for extract. I'm going to say v for verbose, and I'm going to say file. And I'm going to start writing down the name of the file. Click on the tab. Well, since I'm I'm already in the optional folder, what I need to do is actually go to home, right, and then go to users subfolder, and then start writing down the Splunk name and click tab, and it will be filled. And because I would like this to be extracted wherever I am, I'm gonna just say dot, which means in the folder where I am. So in that case, it will get this file, it will extracted it, unarchived it, and uncompressed it, and we'll put it in the folder where I am at the moment, which happens to be /opt. So let's see. So it has been installed. As you see, we see it on the both sides. If I click here twice, there is a bin folder. If I click on this bin folder, you will see a little bit below there is a Splunk file. It's an executable file. Here it is. This is the one which I'm talking about, Splunk. This is the one, and you see I'm already there. So what you could do here is to start the Splunk. What you need to do is saying like you start a script, a bash script, so ./Splunk, and then empty space, and you say start. Now the first time when you start, it will ask you to fill the license, so you need to click tab or space bar several times until it gets to the end of the license agreement. Here it is. Now it's asking you, do you want to agree? So I'm gonna a couple of times I'll do backspace to come there, and I'll say Y for yes and enter. And now it will ask me to create the administrator username and password. This will be the username and password to access here, to be able to access my Splunk appearance, my Splunk appliance. So what I'm gonna do, I'll use this Splunk admin as a username. So it's a good idea to be able to choose it, and I'll choose ABC 123 3 dots as password. C123 3 dots as a password. So in that respect, you will be able, guys, to use this one also. Apparently, while while you do it. And since the IP address of this one is 203, if you remember, and I could do here something like that. So actually it's 204. So I will do 192.168.1.204 colon 8000, if you remember. Click enter, and here it is. What I'll do here, I'm gonna use Splunk admin, and I'm gonna use the password of ABC 123 and 3 dots to access this appliance. Here it is. I'm gonna save this one here, and we are done, guys. Our Splunk server is on. Once again, just physically to remind you what was the server, this is one of the Ubuntu servers, this one, Splunk is called. Alright, you see the name here as well, and I have actually access to it through this console, right? So that's how you started. So as we mentioned, we need Splunk Universal Forwarders installed on our computers, which will be the client, which will provide with logs. So one of them obviously will be the server we are at the moment. The other one will be this remote computer, which if I need to show it to you, it looks exactly the same like my Splunk computer, because it's a cloning. Both of them are cloning of the same server. I just changed the names and IP address and so on and so forth. By the way, I did a little bit off camera. You see, I added here underscore 203 and underscore 204 just to remind me which IP address had one of them, so do not look for that all the time. And basically, the other thing, because the Splunk is executable file, you might actually execute it like that. Could say the path to the file, which is once again Splunk, and then see status, and you could see that Splunk D and Splunk is over there. Now, by the way, you might go and see the Splunk D as well, and that would be the same like the same address like here, though it will be HTTPS. So it will be if I paste this here, so it will be HTTPS, and then here that would be 8089 port. So it will ask me here to confirm the self-sustain certificate. When I click proceed here, I'm gonna see the Splunk D, or the daemon of Splunk, already up. So that's additional thing which could see on the server as well, right? So now we set once again that enterprise server is installed, is working. Now we're gonna need the universal forwarders. We will need them for the Windows computer, and I'm gonna go and download. It's a graphical interface. I'm gonna go and download it right away. It's this 64-bit file for the universal forwarder, right? So this is the client program which will forward to the Splunk server, will forward all the indexes which to be indexed there. So I'm gonna click download now. And again, I could actually go here to the command line wget, could copy this, open the the PowerShell, and actually put this command there, and it will be downloaded. But you see, I already downloaded it in my downloads folder, and I'm gonna install it here on this computer. After that, I will install it graphically. Now the next thing what I wanna do, I'm gonna say back here, and I need to download one for my other Windows Linux server, and I'm gonna go Linux, and we're gonna do as we said the same way. We're gonna go to 64-bit. I'm gonna click download now under TGZ or TAR-GZ, wherever it says. As soon as it's starting downloading, I will cancel it actually. I'll click here and I'll say cancel. And then I'll click command line, right? And then I'm gonna choose the same way. I'm gonna choose here this command line, and I'll come here and I'll go to my Linux server, of course. So that's where I'm gonna put it. I'll say paste. Well, actually, what I'm gonna do, I will put it. It should be in the same OPT file as in the other one. So first, I'm gonna go cd opt. Here it is. I'll paste it now again, and I'm gonna wait until it's installed. And then the same way as if I come here and if I would like to see it visually, that's one of the ways to do it. Of course, you know, the Mobox-Term is very good with, it's really nice showing this interface. So if I click twice on OPT, I will see it here. Of course, I could do ls-l here, and I'm gonna see it again. So the same way, excuse me, I could say tar. We said zxvf, and I'm gonna start writing down the name of this file, and I'm gonna click enter, and it should be unarchived and uncompressed. And as a matter of fact, if I repeat the ls command, I will see it now there, this Splunk forwarder. So I don't need this anymore. I could say actually rm Splunk, but it's called Splunk forwarder, as you see. And I'm gonna choose the TGZ file. I don't need it anymore. So if I repeat ls again, you see it's already there. And again, the same way as before, I could say cd Splunk forwarder, and there will be a bin folder here. And in this folder, I mean, if I want to show it to you a little bit more advanced, you know, to see it more visually on that side, Splunk forwarder, here it is, bin folder. And if I go a little bit below, for sure I'm gonna see there is a Splunk and Splunkd files again. So we're gonna use them in our. Okay, the same, very similar way as we did with our Splunk Enterprise server, we could actually start now the Splunk forwarder as well. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna write again. You know, I could say Splunk./Splunk, and I'm gonna say start. But I don't want to click many times of the space. What I could do to accept automatically the license, I could say --accept -license. So in that case, it might allow me actually to accept the license without going through all of this clicking space, if you remember. So I'm gonna say yes, and it will say that you see it's skipping the boring part, and it's asking me for a username, and I'm gonna use the same Splunk admin, and I'm gonna use the same password, abc123, and again abc123. And let's see now. Even though it says invalid key in stanza, it should be on. It should be on now. So the next thing what I want to do here is to specify which will be my server where I'm gonna enterprise server where I'm gonna forward the logs from. So I'm gonna say like that .splunk, and then I'm gonna say add. I could say add, and I'm gonna say here forward server .server. And what I need to do now is to put the IP address or the name of my server, and it would be 192.168.1.203. Right, that's where it should be. I'm gonna click enter. Now it's asking me for the Splunk username, and the Splunk username in that case will be Splunk admin, and the password, you know, ABC123 3 dots. And well, you see, it's really indeed not properly done. If you remember, the port for that should be 3 9s and 7, so we need to do it this way. Okay, and as you see, it says now it has been added to forward to this server. Now let's check if this server is working. So if the forward is okay, so I could say that Splunk again, and this time I could say list forward dash server. So to see which are the forward servers where it is. Now you see it finding it out configured but inactive, so it means inactive. Well, if you remember when the lectures were, there was something explained there that there is some files which on the forwarders are supposed to be manipulated, which are called outputs .conf. So that's what we need to do. One of the ways is to go to a specific folder, which should be on the opt on the Splunk forwarder etc. So if I need to show it to you here on the left side, it will be here in the Splunk forwarder, opt Splunk forwarder etc. This folder. Give me just a sec to click properly, and then here into the etc. it will be in the apps and search. Here it is, and then into when you go to search, it's supposed to have a local folder. So because that's we haven't created it yet, we might go and create it manually, as well as put the inputs.conf file there. So that's the file which should be inputs.conf. The other way to do it, actually, there is a command which might add it. So let's try this command. I'm gonna say here monitor. Well, first again I need to say Splunk again, obviously. Every command you need to execute will be with the Splunk before, and afterwards I'll say add monitor. And what it does, it will create the folder, it will create the file inputs.conf, so local folder, and the file inside inputs.conf. And basically what we'll do after, we'll create a special record inside, which basically I'm gonna say, let's say wherever the Linux logs are normally is var log folder, right? So I could say like this, and as you see it says monitor, added monitor off. If I go one folder up and I go back to search, I need just to click properly. Now you see local has been created, and if I open it, if I click twice on it, it doesn't open actually, but I could open it of course on that side, right? I could say here cd opt, and then Splunk forwarder, and then we say etc, and then we say apps, and then we set search, and then we say local. And if we would like to actually not do cd, we're gonna do lc here just to see what it is there. Yeah, here it is. We see there is a file which is called inputs.conf, right? Now if I want to add some more, so the configuration, you know, which I'm gonna monitor to be more well specified, I could always say here, instead of what I did for now, I could instead of ls-l, I could do vim, and actually I'm gonna try to repeat the command like that because it's pretty large. Okay, here it is. Okay, and well, it's opening the two of them, well, because it's using L. So let me close this one, and let's repeat it again. Yeah, it is inputs.conf. Here it is, and wherever we enter, actually, it's already there. So What I could do here, I could say index. There is no index yet on my Splunk Enterprise server, so what I need to do is actually to create it. I'll go to my Splunk Enterprise server. I'll click here where it says settings. By the way, the first thing what we need to do is to go on the settings here where it says forwarding and receiving, and then once you click on forwarding and receiving, we need to be sure here it is again. Let's go settings, forwarding and receiving. Here it is. We need to say configure receiving, and what we need to do here actually is to be sure that we have the Splunk port there, the Splunk Enterprise server for the forwarder. So port 9997 is written here, so you see there is none, so I need to say new receiving port, and I need to say 9997, so that would be the port on which will be received, right? We already specified it there, so it's taking a little bit just of time, so when you click on that you need to wait a little bit. Let's try again, clicking on the new receiving port. So I need to reboot the server, and it's okay. Here it is. There are some problems here, but it's okay. We'll see after this. So I could go to the settings here, and I could go to, once again, I need to do the to go forwarding and receiving, and then I need to navigate to, I need to add a new configure new receiving and add a new receiving, and the port which I need to do is 3 9s and 7. I'll say save. I need this port here so to be able to communicate. Here it is, and yeah, that's almost all what I need to do here. Oh yeah, I need to create also the if I don't create a specific indexer index folder, which again I will go here settings and go where it says indexes, all the logs which will be which I'm now configuring, they will be added here directly on the default folder. So it's much better actually to create your own. So I'm gonna say new index. It's kind of container which will contain your own searches. So I'm gonna call it for Linux, because that's, and the other one I'm gonna create the other one also, which will be called for Windows. And I'll say for_Windows. So I'm gonna create both of them now. I'm gonna use at the moment only for Windows. Now, why I need this? Well, because when I'm here, I could actually go and create and say exactly where it will be. So I could come here and I could say index, and that would be the index which I just created for _Linux, right? So that was the name, huh? If I go a little bit here below, here it is. It's for Win and for Linux. And something else I could say, I could write down the host name. So that would, if I say host equal 192.68.1.204, right? So with this done, I could click Control WQ to save my Win file. Now be sure, be sure you will be using the whatever you're using, it's appropriately configured. So I'm gonna say WQ. What I need to do actually now is to restart the forwarder. So I need to reuse one of the commands from before, Splunk, this one, at indeed Splunk start. In that case, I'm gonna say restart, and I don't need accept license because that's not the first time, it's already. And I'm gonna restart this Splunk agent here. So we're waiting. While I'm waiting, actually, I could come here and to follow for this. I need to click here on the left corner where it says Splunk Enterprise, and when I see the initial window, I could come here, search and reporting to click, and then I'll say skip the tour. At the moment I don't care, and I could put here the index. Actually, I could say index equals, and I'm gonna start writing down 4, and once I see for Linux, I'm gonna choose this search index. Here I could say the last I don't know, 15 minutes, I guess, as well as instead of smart mode I might choose the verbose mode, and I'll click here on this one. Now it's the search not executed, so you see the search itself is not ready, but we will do it. So what was the problem? It was reaching more than less than 5 gigabyte of space, 5,000 megabyte of space. It was less. The good thing was I have LVM, logical volume management, and I was able to extend it. So now I hope it will work. So I could come here, click on the search history, copy here the index which I was looking for already, pasted it back, and let's use again 15 minutes. It's better, and I'll search now. It says no results found. Most probably it's not on. Let me check. Well, it should be on this one. This one might be. Let's try again. We'll say Splunk restart here. That's the forwarder. After the forwarder is restarted, we'll check to see if it's properly connected. So it's very important to show it's inactive. If it doesn't show this, we'll know we won't be able to get any. I did a little bit of troubleshooting. It was actually a misplacing of the IP addresses. So you see Splunk actually, because these are dynamic IP addresses, it got 204 and this one 205, the server. Nevertheless, I was able to fix it, and as you see now, I changed obviously the one which was before 203. I removed it. Well, I will remove it, and you see now the active forwarder is 204. So if I come here and if I list this one, as you see now the events are here. And as a matter of fact, if I look for the latest events which I was doing, you might indeed find some interesting one. If I say here Control F hello, I was doing well, let's do it again. So I could do like that. I could say logger hello. It will produce a log with this hello. I could do controller tail. So I could do tail -1, so it will show me just the last row of this var log, and syslog the major log into there. You see it, there is a hello there, and if I come here and I go and again refresh this and I look for hello, here it is, it's shown. So it's getting the anything what is done. So basically this is how we do with the Linux server. Once again, when I'm sending you these two servers as OVA files as an appliances, virtual appliances, so you guys just to click and integrate if you want, if you don't want to install them. I will create here the static IP addresses, so they will be the same IP addresses, but they will be statically assigned, so there will be no any more fluctuation And as you see, if you do remove forward server, so if you remove the server which was wrongly already done, and if I now click again and execute the list forward servers, you see now there is no inactive forwarder. I just removed it from here, and I have active forwarder, which once again, if I come here and click, it will proceed. Doing the thing, right? So you see the events all the time are going up. Now it is part of the next video, which will show actually how we're gonna analyze. But let's finish first with the installation of the Windows server as well. So as we mentioned, on the Windows server, we will also install this Windows server, where at the moment we actually see all the logs. We will go and we will install. We will work on the ability to install a forwarder, which afterwards we to be able to check the active domain, to monitor the active domain itself. So let's install the forwarder. If you remember, I downloaded it already. So if you come here to the downloads folder, you would see it. Here it is. The other one was the tar.gz file for the Linux, which we just finished with. So I'm gonna click twice of this guy to start the installation. But the overall work will be something very similar to what we've been doing so far. So I'm gonna say root, well, I'm gonna say check the license box to accept the license agreement. It's an on-premises, it's not cloud instance anyway, so I'm gonna say here next. I'm not gonna customize, I'll choose the default options. Now the username, of course, we will use the Splunk admin again. I'm not gonna use random generate password. I'll use ABC 1 2 3 and 3 dots, and I'm gonna confirm it. So for all the forwarders as well as for the server itself, we have this same username and password. So ABC 1 2 3 3 dots. I'll say next here. Now this is if you're gonna have a deployment service, and they explain what it is, on which port works. This is if you have a lot of forwarders there. I'm not gonna use such a thing, although it's a very interesting option. I'll say next and skip this one. By the way, the receiving indexer, we need to use it. I'm sorry, that's what we need to choose. The further deployment server we're not gonna use, but the receiving indexer, that would be our indexer, which as we know, it is the let me just open to be sure I'm not gonna make a mistake after changing all of these IP addresses. So my Splunk is 204, the IP address, so let me minimize this again. So 192.168.1.204, and of course the default port is 9997, right? So I'm gonna say next here, and I'm gonna say install. So we're gonna wait until this one is installed, and afterwards we will proceed with configuring it. While we're waiting, actually, we could come here on the server, and we could go. Well, we downloaded already the universal forwarder, as a matter of fact, and yeah, it has been installed. Here it is. Was successfully installed. That's all. So I'm gonna say finish. Now I'm gonna open the command prompt here. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna put it here on the right side, and I'll do it a little bit kind of bigger, maybe, just to be able to work a little bit more easily with it. I'll clear my screen. That's good. So Where it is, it's in the same. It has been created the same directory. So navigating there in Windows, it's kind of CD, empty space, and backslash. That's the root there. So I'm gonna go directly to the CD, so to the C folder. So I'm gonna say CD program files, and then I will navigate here to Splunk forwarder, which is already, as you see, installed there. It's the same technology, the same thing as before. Now there will be no Splunk folder, there will be a bin folder here. And once we come here, and if I go there, I'll see that the Splunk actually is here. It is Splunk D and Splunk exe are directly here. So the only difference is that there is no Splunk folder. That's the way it has been installed. So the bin folder is directly under Splunk Universal Forwarder subfolder. So what I'm gonna do here, I'll say Splunk status. Right, I'll click enter, and it says it's running. So my forwarder already is working. So if you remember, we need the inputs file here, and because we haven't, there is the same way we could run actually the monitor command. So to start the application, right? So to start the monitor, Splunk add monitor, we could do this, but in that case we will skip it because as a matter of fact we will create it right away by ourselves. And let's see how to do it. Actually, that's alternative way. So we need to come here wherever the folder should be. So on this PC, and then program files. When we go this PC, C drive, program files. Well, not this one. The program files for 64-bit programs. Here it is. Splunk Universal Forwarder, and then we're gonna go to var subfolder, log. Well, this is where the log files will be. We need to go actually to Etsy, if you remember, that was the folder. So here Etsy, then we need to go to the apps. That was the same way organized in Linux, if you remember. Then we need to go to search. And we should go to local, but we don't. If you remember, we didn't have it in Linux as well, and we executed add monitor command, and it appeared. Now in our case, we're not gonna do it this way. We're just gonna say new folder, and I will create the local folder, right? So, and what I'm gonna do actually here, I'm gonna click on the view, and I'm gonna say to see file name extensions. I'll click and enter the local, and I will create a new text file. All right, and this new text file I'm gonna call inputs, but I'm gonna change the extension txt to conf. If you remember, that's supposed to be. I'll say yes on the warning, and then I will open it. I'll say open with, and I'll choose try an application, Notepad. Here it is, and I'm gonna add something. So I did a little bit of troubleshooting. As I promised, I changed to static IP addresses all of this, so they do not move anymore. What I did also, I'll put it in the shared folder, and in the explanation, I put it. I changed the content of the inputs.conf so to monitor the default in the scripts, the wmi.path splunk-wmi script, which indeed is monitoring the Windows event logs for application security system as well as for remote access. Right, so basically after this and the rebooting the servers, both of them, apparently, as you see now, when I go and check for Win, I have already all the security logs now, and which is related with the with this. Here it is again. That's the name. It's for Win. That's how we call it. So basically, with this we were able to finish the installation of the forwarder on Windows, and basically we've been able to monitor some logs specifically related with the Windows event from it. The next step will be, and the last step will be for installation steps, meaning will be to install the forwarder, or at least to try to install it on the pfSense itself.